Hey everybody, how's it going? This is the Scrapper Tap Podcast, and I'm Jared Cole. Today I'm going to go over UFC Fight Night 176. I'm going to give my picks and predictions. That's Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns going down May 30th at the UFC Apex. And this is going to be a pretty good card. It's not as solid as what we've been seeing, as stacked as what we've been seeing, and what we're going to see on June 6th. But it's a very good, solid fight card. I like a lot of these guys. There's a few up and comers, a couple people that have a few fights in the UFC that are trying to make their name, and I'm liking this style of fight card for sure. And of course, the main event, we have a banger. Woodley versus Burns. All right, so I'm going to start at the prelims. I'm going to shoot through. I'm going to fire through, go pretty quick, give my picks, quick reason why, and the odds. So all these odds are off of bookmakers, so they can change. This is recording on a Tuesday. Things can change throughout the week. So here we go. First fight. Started off the prelims. We got Chris Gutierrez minus 115 versus Vince Morales a minus 115. So we got to pick them to start right off, man. This is gonna be a good fight. They're both scrappy dudes, real tough fighters. We got Chris Gutierrez. He's 2-0 in the UFC. I believe it was over McDonald. And I can't remember his other win, but pretty good opponents, not too shabby. And then Vince Morales, he's been doing pretty good too, but he lost to Benito Lopez. But hey, Benito Lopez is a good, solid fighter, man. I like watching him fight. So there's not too much to take from there. You know, he lost to a really good opponent, so he just got to work his way to get there. I like Morales, but I'm taking the slightly bigger Chris Gutierrez in this one. I'm going to take Chris Gutierrez to most likely win by decision. All right, next we got Luis Smolka, the plus 225 versus Casey Kenny, minus 274, man. Casey Kenny, I like Casey Kenny. I like watching him fight. He's a scrappy dude. Smolka's, he's been around as well. He's put in work, but he's more of like a 500 fighter. He gets it done sometimes when you don't expect him to, but I don't see that happening over Casey Kenny. So I'm gonna take Casey. I heard real quick on Casey Kenny. I heard somebody say he reminds them of T.J. Dillashaw, and I can see that, man. He applies the pressure. He's nonstop, and I like his style of fighting. He puts it on his opponents for the most part, and I think he's going to do that to Smolka. I want to say pretty easily, but it's MMA. You never know. But I'm taking Casey Kenny. Most likely decision. I could see a TKO stoppage in the second or third. All right, next we got a vet versus a newbie. We got minus 195 favorite Tim Elliott versus Brandon Royval. Plus 145. I don't know too much about Brandon Royval. I believe it's Royval. But I did a little research, man. He's a ground guy. He's jiu-jitsu fighter. And, I can see him giving Elliott a lot of trouble if he gets this to the ground or maybe from his back. But I'm leaning towards Tim Elliott. I'm leaning towards the experience. It's tough, man. It's tough to come in against such an experienced guy. And, I mean, even though I said he's a 50-50, 500 fighter, it seems like he loses just about as much as he wins. But there's a reason he's still in the UFC, man. He puts on fights, and I think he's going to put it on Brandon. So I'm going to take Tim Elliott to get the win. That's another decision, if not TKO in the second, but that's what I'm going to go with. All right, the next one we got us a banger. We got minus 130 favorite Jamal Hill versus Clitson Ferris de Abreu, the plus 100 underdog. Oh, man, Abreu's a tough fighter, man. He has a couple losses that, if he were to win those, man, he'd be looking like a really tough prospect. But this Jamal Hill, man, he's a beast, man. He's a big dude. He's strong. and I think he's going to apply that pressure to Abreu. He has a win over Stoshik. Darko, and man, that guy's a that guy's a beast, and he handled that one. And I see him doing the same thing to Abreu, so I'm gonna take Jamal Hill. I'm thinking a stoppage though. I'm thinking a TKO in the second or third. All right. Next we got plus 117 Spike Carlisle versus minus 134 Billy Carantillo. And man, this one's gonna be a good fight. Billy's tough. He is a tough dude. So maybe Spike won't be able to do it the same as his last win, first round KO. He just went and literally got in the other guy's face and applied that pressure and got the first round KO. I could see it going like that, or I can see this being a tough brawl. Man, I was actually flip-flopping back and forth on this one. But I'm going with the underdog. I'm taking Spike Carlisle, man. He's a specimen, man. He's jacked, and it takes one of those overhands to end a fight. So I'm going to take Spike Carlisle to get another first round KO. Let's see that happen. If not, second round. All right, so then we get into the ladies. The last prelim card, we got a plus 118 Caitlin Chukagian versus Antonina Shevchenko, minus 148. All right, so I don't really agree with these odds at all. I don't know how Shevchenko, is the minus 148 favorite. Caitlin Chukagian has all the experience. She's coming off a loss to her sister, the other Shevchenko, the champion. So I could see the odds being what it is for that fight. But this is her sister, and man, I don't know if they forgot or what. But she has a tough loss on her resume. I just don't see how they're putting her in this position. I can see them doing a pick'em. But if not, I think it should be leaning towards Caitlin Chukagian. So, man, if y'all are putting on some bets and y'all want some underdogs, Caitlin Chukagian's looking good on that, man. Honestly, that experience, I think she's going to have her way with Shevchenko on the ground. And so I'm going to take Caitlin Chukagian, the plus 118 underdog, to get the win. She might submit her second or third, but if not, I see a decision going to Caitlin Chukagian. All right, and then to kick off the main card, we got Mackenzie Dern, the minus 410 favorite, versus Hannah Cifers, plus 298 underdog. She's the biggest favorite on the card. Mackenzie Dern, dang. She has the size advantage, and that groundwork. Oh, man, yeah, she's a bit bigger, and Cypher's tough, man. She hangs in there. Has a couple wins that I personally didn't see coming. So this could definitely be another one of those. But I'm leaning with the odds heavy. I'm not gonna go too deep into this. I'm gonna just say size and that groundwork. I think Mackenzie Dern will get the win. So next we got the minus 330 Roosevelt Roberts versus Brock Weaver, the plus 248 underdog. Brock's he's another tough fighter, and I think the UFC likes this guy. I really do. He was on the Contender Series, I believe it was, and he got that contract after a pretty big win, man. But it was the way he talked on the mic. It was easy to back, including me. I went and followed him on social media as I like his style. And I think he can become a good fighter with some time, some more training, and, a little more experience for sure. And Roosevelt Roberts, the minus 330, a little bit more experience. I love this guy, man. I love betting on him. I usually have him in a DraftKings card. And I just like his style. He's long. He has a long jab. I think he's going to be able to keep Brock away with his kicks as well as the jab. And man, I see him out striking Brock. Now, I'm not saying Brock can't get him down or land that one punch, but I'm leaning all Roosevelt Roberts here to run around Brock Weaver and get that win. So I'm taking Roosevelt Roberts. I'm not saying Brock's going to get gassed, but I'm thinking he's going to slow down in this late second, third round, and I think Roosevelt Roberts will get the TKO. So next, man, we had one of my favorite fights on the card, which I believe is not happening anymore. I have two sources that said it wasn't going down, but UFC didn't announce it, and they didn't take it off DraftKings yet. Usually those are the telltale signs that we're not getting that fight. But it was the 230 favorite Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez, which is the plus 179 underdog. Yeah, man, I had Kevin Holland. We were literally about to see him fight twice in 3 weeks. We literally just saw, or was it 2 weeks? We just saw him fight on a card and get a first-round KO over Hernandez. And now he's taking on Daniel Rodriguez. That's wild, man. So I don't know if it was injury or weight cut issues. I'm not too sure. It's hard for me to say it's a weight cut issue because I believe they're going at I think they're fighting once at 170. And his last fight was at 185, but he weighed in at 182. It looked like that was his walking around weight. And, that's not too much of a weight cut, 182 to 170, that's pretty easy compared to a lot of other fighters, what they have to do. So who knows? Maybe so. Maybe that was the issue, but I don't think he cut weight the last fight. So I don't think, it's, like a Tony Ferguson thing, like how he cut weight back to back, and a lot of people think that might have been a cause of his loss. I'm not saying that, but I'm not sure exactly what happened. But if this fight somehow, for some reason, still goes on, I take Kevin Holland. Now, if they give Rodriguez a replacement, I'll come on the comments and make a pick, or on social media, just so for my recap next week I can be able, to include that in with these other picks. But I'm taking Kevin Holland on this one for sure. I like this. I like that guy's style. All right, so then we got the co-main event. The minus 120 favorite, Blagoy Ivanov versus Augusto Sakai, minus 110. So, okay, it's basically a pick 'em here. Yeah, I definitely can see that, man. We got Ivanov, which is he's a durable, tough dude. He's been stabbed in the chest. You can see the little hole left over from the surgery. Oh, man, this guy, he ain't a joke. He was actually a world champion in another promotion before he came to the UFC. And, I've always not that I doubted him. I just never really picked him in too many fights that he's been in. But the Tai Tuivasa one, I chose Tai, man. I love him. I see him being, he was a prospect at the time, and I thought he was going to roll through this guy, and that did not happen. And after that, I'm starting to look a little different at Ivanov. You got to actually do a little more research and pay attention to him, because he's not a joke. But I like Sakai as well, man. I like the way he fights. Look, this is how I think it's going to get. This is my quick breakdown on this fight. If Ivanov, tries to keep him against the fence, takes him down. If he's able to take him down, that's his fight all day. It might be a little boring, but he's going to get that decision. All right. If Sakai can keep him up, keep him in range, I don't see him having a problem outstriking him the whole night and possibly getting a KO. It's tough. Are you leaning with the striker or someone that's more into control and some ground and pound? Usually I lean toward, lately I've been leaning towards that ground and pound, but I'm going with Sakai. I think Sakai is going to keep him up and find a way to get a finish. If not, just outstrike him the whole three rounds. So I'm taking Augusto Sakai. Let's go with it. To get the finish, KO finish in the second. All right. Now we're to the main event, man. This is the one that, as soon as it was announced, I was like, oh, okay, this is a scrap. Regardless of the other fights on the card, this is going to make the night worth it. I'm telling you right now. We got Tyron Woodley, the minus 195 favorite, over Gilbert Burns, the plus 154. The odds are pretty correct. You got to give respect to the ex-champion. He only has one loss, and against Usman, which is still the champion, he had a bad night, but it's also been a little long layoff, and people think that he has other things outside the octagon that are maybe holding him back, his music career, and just other little things. He always thought the UFC had something out for him. So who knows what his mentality is going to be like on the night of the fight. But Burns, he's rolling, man. He's coming off, I think it's 5 or 6 fight win streak. His last loss was against Dan Hooker, which is in a slouch, man. He's another one on a run for the title. He's a couple fights, maybe 2 wins away from getting it. He just beat Paul Felder, and it was a great fight. So it just depends who shows up that night, man. If the same Woodley that went on a reign as champion and defended it, the many times as he did, if he comes in and his wrestling's on point, he's not able to let Burns get on top of him or even be on the ground, I can see him knocking out Burns. But man, Burns, he's coming off some knockouts as well of his own. I flip back and forth on this one. For a while I was thinking this is like the torch being handed off to Gilbert Burns, the younger fighter, Tyron. Even though he doesn't look it, he's already 38 years old, but he's still in great shape. And he took a while off, so the time off can either be a huge positive to him or a negative, man. But I'm going with the experience, the vet. I'm taking Woodley, man. I really wanted to take Burns. I like him a lot if he gets the win. A lot of these underdogs, the last 3 weeks, the underdogs have won the main event. But I'm taking Tyron Woodley to end that streak. I'm sticking with Woodley. I think it's going to be early, too. I don't think it's going to be late. I think a first-round KO. Yeah, man. Yeah, don't forget, not only does Woodley have crazy knockout power, man, he is, I believe, a Division I wrestler, man. He's the real deal. So I don't think Burns is just going to be able to get in on him and show his jiu-jitsu or anything like that. I think it's going to be a good scrap. Either man can win this, but I'm taking Woodley to get the win. All right, guys, those are my picks. This is the May 30th UFC Fight Night 176. It's going down this Saturday. I'm ready for him. I hope y'all are too. Let me know if y'all have any differences, who y'all are taking in the main event. We got Woodley and Burns. Let me know in the comments, and we'll see what happens, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is the Scrapper Tap Podcast.